He's been trying to spy on his neighbors for a long time. Today, he dug a hole in the wall and put a miniature camera inside. But what you see is not what you think. You can only see a group of gangsters next door. They're violently beating up one of their boys. They even tied him to a table. He said, "I only bragged about my plan to steal the bank. I only bragged to my girlfriend. I didn't tell anyone else." Looking at such an honest little brother, Mr. Black was very polite. He gave him a lift. The peeping man was scared silly. He took out his mobile phone and wanted to call the police. But when he thought about what he said about stealing from the bank, he immediately changed his mind. The man had been in a car accident. He not only lost his wife and daughter, he also lost his legs to earn money. He was so poor that he couldn't even pay his electricity bill. And this opportunity to make a fortune came to him. Of course he wanted to take part in it. So the man secretly observed them for several days. He found out that this is an experienced gang of thieves. Their target was the central bank next door. And the plan was bold. They dug a tunnel underground, right under the bank's security cameras. The operation was to take place a week after Christmas. They'll move in fast while all the cops are on their toes. Steal all the money. The man got more and more excited about the plan, because he realized that in the middle of the passage between the bank and the robbers was going to pass right under his house. And the robbers' modus operandi. The robbers would put all the stolen money into a wheeled cart to transport it to the receiver at the entrance. The man had an idea. He dug a tunnel entrance in the basement, right in the middle of the tunnel. As soon as the money trucks passed in front of him, he intercepted them to get a toll. Just like that, the day of his fortune was getting closer and closer. But 2 days before the operation, a woman appeared in the surveillance, broke all his plans. He knew this woman. It was the tenant Xiao Mei who had just moved into his house. At first, the man had no intention of renting out the room, but when he saw that she was a widow and an orphan, Xiao Mei is also a pole dancer, so he rented it out. What he didn't expect was a wolf, but when he thought about it, he understood. A group of experienced robbers. They even planned to rob a bank. How could they not know about the man's presence? But a cripple was no threat, so they assigned Xiao Mei as a tenant to spy on him. It's too late for the man to regret. In order to make the plan go smoothly, the man secretly drugged Xiao Mei's wine. He drugged him and took him under control. But he still overlooked one person, Xiao Mei's daughter. The little girl is not very talkative. She doesn't look too smart either. So the man left her alone. But who knew that the little girl, when the man wasn't looking, she snuck into the robber's lair through the pipe. When the man tried to save her, it was too late, because the robbers came back. A group of robbers were going to steal from a bank, and this man was going to steal from the robbers. The robbers dug a tunnel under the bank, and the tunnel goes right under the man's house. So he had an idea. As soon as the wheelbarrow with the money passes in front of him, he'd sneak in a few bucks for the ride. The plan was perfect, but at the very moment of action, the little girl in the family went down the secret tunnel to the hijacker's lair. If he was found out, his plan to steal the money would be exposed. But fortunately, the little girl was not stupid. She hid at the last moment when the robbers came back. It was by chance that the man discovered a deeper secret. There was an old man in the gang this time, and the old man is the chief of the local police station. The old man said, "I would help you escape, but the condition is to share the spoils 50-50. There's one more important thing. Don't touch the safes in the vault. Inside are the money for Big Brother. Whoever touches it will die." The men listened for an hour in fear, waiting for all the robbers to leave. Then he had a chance to bring the little girl back. But as soon as the situation was resolved, there's been another change on the other side. Ever since he found out that Xiao Mei was a spy, the men have been kidnapping her for days. Every time the boss called, Xiao Mei would never answer the phone. If she continues to do so, she'll surely be detected by the other side. He had no choice. The man told a secret about his daughter, in order to get Xiao Mei to join him. It turns out that on the first day the mother and daughter stayed in the house. The man noticed the little girl's abnormality. The little girl is not mute, but she never spoke to anyone, including her mother, and this has been going on for 2 years. Until this day, the man found out the girl was whispering to the family dog. The man was curious, so he secretly put a bug in the dog's collar. In the dog's collar, unexpectedly, he recorded a devilish story. The little girl said that when she was 4 years old, was abused by the boss next door. Afterwards, he threatened the girl. She wouldn't tell anyone, or he would kill him. Since then the girl has never dared to speak out of fear. May broke down after hearing that. The man took the opportunity to say, "If you cooperate with me now, not only will you get a fortune, I will also help your daughter to take revenge and take care of the boss." Xiao Mei then agreed. She forced a smile on her face. She told Boss Black that she was safe. Now all the external and internal problems have been solved. But I didn't expect the plan to change. The robbers suddenly changed their mind. They replaced the original wheelbarrow, replaced it with a small closed box. It's more stable and less likely to fall apart. The man almost fainted from anger. His plan to get the money was in vain. Seeing that the robbers were about to make their move in 2 hours, the man no longer cared about safety. He entered the bank's vault through the tunnel, stealing as much as he could. But the man was smart. He knew that the robbers were covered by the police chief, will not be caught. So he stole the money from the cell phone. So he framed the robbers, even if they can't hide from the police. But they can't hide from Big Brother. That's the only way to help Xiao Mei get rid of the boss. But on his way back, the robbers promised to move at 8 o'clock. But they're ahead of schedule. They were about to enter the tunnel. And the man at this time is still a long way from his home. A man just burgled a bank. He had to drag the police round the house to check it out, because he caused a water pipe explosion during the bank robbery. The police have been alerted and are looking for criminals everywhere. The man knows it very well. At this time, inviting the police to inspect his home is the fastest way to get rid of suspicion. Sure enough, in the man's arranged scene, the police found nothing. They could only go to other places to continue their investigation. But no sooner had the police left, another group of people claiming to be police came to the door. If they didn't know they were robbers, the man almost believed them. The leader of the gang asked, "There are some workers next door. They had an accident while repairing a pipe. Have you seen them?" At his words, the man looked calm, but his heart was shaking, because he was the only one who knew. He's the one who killed those criminals. Before the operation, the robbers planted explosives at the entrance of the bank. They could only get in if they blew up the floor of the bank. But the men secretly modified the explosives to the water pipes. The unsuspecting robbers detonated it. When they entered the bank, they realized, obviously used explosives to blast. But the floor of the bank had been cut open. When they realized it, it was too late. The whole tunnel was filled with water. It was impossible to pass through. One of the robbers tried to swim back, but the current was too strong. He drowned in the tunnel. 2 other robbers were trapped in the bank and couldn't get out. They had no choice but to set off the alarm and wait for the police to rescue them. And the reason for all this, of course the man will not tell the boss. But Boss Black is not stupid. The men he sent to spy on the man have disappeared. That is, Xiao Mei and his daughter. Their sudden disappearance. The man must know something. So the boss asked about Xiao Mei's whereabouts. The man answered simply. He said he hadn't seen her and didn't know. Where did he go? Oh, really? Then who is this? It's all over now. So the robbers stopped pretending. They beat the men severely. They were asking about the whereabouts of the stolen money. He was about to be killed. The man had an idea. He called out the name of one of the robbers. The boss was baffled. It was the first time we met. How could he know the names of his accomplices? The man said it was all Curly's plan. He told me all the plans. He told me to hack your money here. But the boss still didn't believe me. The man said you should be called Rubbish. The one next to you is your own brother. His name is Rubbish, right? Curly told me all this. They were completely baffled. The man's name matches all the names. But Curly was even more confused, seeing that he couldn't explain it. He didn't explain it at all. In the chaos, only the black boss was left out of the 3 robbers. But even so, the man is still unable to resist. But there was one person who could. That's Xiao Mei, who's been hiding in the house and listening in. Ever since she learned that Boss Black had abused his daughter, Xiao Mei has always wanted to kill the boss. Now is the time. All the robbers are dead. I thought this would be the end of the matter. But then there was an unexpected guest. The commissioner. He's here to help the robbers escape. But after waiting outside for half a day, there was no news. The chief knew something was wrong. Looking at the corpses in the room, the chief wasn't even surprised. Instead, he helped the men clean up the scene. This unusual behavior. But the man was not surprised. The chief's demand was simple. He wanted to hand over all the money he stole. The Mun wanted to discuss it again, but then the chief pulled a gun on the mother and daughter. Now he can either pay up, or watch them die. The Mun had no choice. Even if he doesn't pay up, he would have been the next to die. But maybe it's God's will. The director was about to leave when he got the money. But he got hypoglycemia. He opened a tin of biscuits and ate it. And he would never know. The biscuits were injected with poison. They were meant for dogs, to euthanize the old dog. Instead, they became the chief's last lunch. The chief, who designed all the plans, ended up dying in his own plan. Is this karma? Even though the Mun is still penniless, Xiaomei has nothing to show for it in the end. But sometimes, the happiest thing is not to lose and not to win. At the end of the film, the Mun and Mei are together, and the little girl finally dares to speak. Isn't that the happiest ending? Maybe everyone has walked through a tunnel. Some do it for money, some for fame and fortune, others have been forced into it. They've had a rough ride and persevered, and when they come out, they have nothing in their hands. You only think about the gains and losses along the way, but you don't notice the warmth of the sun on your body.